Hi, today from the North Cape, the northmostest point on the European continent. Today we'll be talking about the importance of the Fringe. What is it good for? What is it used for? What does it have to do with the North Cape? And we are 500 kilometers north from the polar circle. See you after a short break. Hi again from Honningsvåg, a small town close to the North Cape, 30 kilometers away, also behind the polar circle, within the polar circle. The importance of the Fringe. What is the importance of the Fringe? If you want to find out the most about a system, about a physical system, let's say, about a device, you put it in fringe conditions. You put it into extreme conditions and observe how it behaves. Then you can learn the most and the fastest about a phenomenon, a physical body, a device, a machine, whatever. For example, if you want to really understand the laws of physics, you research how physical objects behave close to or inside a black hole, right? Also the relativity, how light and mass behaves close to a black hole, inside the black hole, what is a black hole, what laws of physics are valid there, and so on and so on. And the same is with any topic, right? If you want to learn about the most about economy, about politics, also about, let's say, history, then any social science, right? Any topic with, let's say, interpretation possibility, you don't talk to people of the mainstream who just have, the common opinions, the common knowledge and the common ideas. You talk to people with extreme, with fringe opinions, ideas, and maybe convictions. And then you can see how these ideas, how these opinions play out in the real system, in the real life, in the real world. And you can also, talk to people from the extreme opposites, right? And maybe confront them. And also see how what are the opinion about the, let's say, very fringe conditions of a society, or moments in history, or fringe conditions of economy. And then you hear their opinions about that, and then you can really learn about how the world, or get new ideas about how the world may work or may not work, how the economy, the history, what was the real history or the real facts, and maybe the reasons behind any events, and so on and so on. And it applies also to yourself. If you want to learn yourself the fastest, the quickest, you put yourself in extreme situations, in fringe conditions. You force yourself to cross your limits or come close to your limits, and then you will find out of what wood you are carved of, what you are capable of, what are your real abilities, capabilities, and so on and so on. This is also the situation where you learn most for yourself and develop yourself, to develop as a personality and make most progress when you operate in that fringe conditions. This is the importance of the fringe. And why I'm talking here from the North Cape, from the polar circle, because this is also a situation where you can learn most about how the world in astronomical perspective works. The sun, the seasons, and so on and so on. I was talking about different perspectives on how the world works from the southern hemisphere, northern hemisphere, and so on, and talked about. I encourage you to watch that video, how geography shapes you or your understanding of the world. You will find out that it has a huge impact, and most people in the, let's say, normal latitudes, then let's say in northern Europe, even most, like 99.9% of the world population, for them the sun rises every day in the east and sets every day in the west, and during the day it crosses the sky, and for some in the northern hemisphere it crosses in the south, more or less, and for those people in the southern hemisphere it crosses in the north. But in general, for every day it rises and it sets, and they know there is, for some of them, if you are farther away from the equator, then you realize there is also there are seasons, and there is a difference in the duration of night and day. During summer, the days are longer. During winter, they are shorter. But behind or within the polar circle, in the northern hemisphere and in the southern hemisphere, there are periods of time when there is the sun never rises and never sets. It's, let's say, a longer period. For a longer period of time, it is a polar day, and the same maybe a polar night where the sun never rises, never sets. It's always night for several days, sometimes months. And polar day is the same, right? The sun never sets. It's always the day. And here you see it is 1st of July, midnight. Here in Honingsvagen, close to Nordcap. I just was in the Nordcap and will end the video also there. But there is too much people, so I came here to record the main video. Anyway, you see, it's a day, right? It's as bright as during the day. Also, it is midnight. It is cold. I mean, it's like 12 a.m. I mean, by the clock, it's midnight. But there is not much difference between the day and the night. The sun is over the horizon, and it is bright as during the day. Now, the closer to the pole, let's focus now on the North Pole. The closer to the North Pole, the longer the polar day becomes, and also the longer the polar night becomes. So during the polar night, I was also in Spitsbergen. Watch the video from Spitsbergen when I talk about the power of capitalism. And in Spitsbergen, the polar day is 4 months already. So for the polar night is 2 months, and the polar day is 4 months. So for 4 months, the sun doesn't set, and it goes like this, like a spiral. Let's say to some point in the horizon, when it is at equinox, the day and the night are equal. But starting with the equinox, it gets, the day gets longer until the sun never sets, and it goes like in a spiral movement for 2 months till it gets to the highest point on the horizon, and then it starts descending also in a spiral movement till it again becomes rises and sets. And then we have the final extreme situation, extreme fringe, let's say, fringe situation, fringe point, which is the pole. In the pole, let's call it now for the northern pole, we have one day and one night during a year. For half a year, we have, not for half a year, but the sun rises only once and it sets only once. And then the most of the year it is in the northern hemisphere it's day, and in the southern hemisphere it's night. And now I would like the flatliners to explain to me how it is possible. But I will explain to you how it is possible for the normal people, how it happens that the sun doesn't set, doesn't rise, and it's always over the horizon. Let's explain the day. So the Earth rotates along an axis, and this axis isn't perpendicular to the movement around the sun. It is tilted, a little bit tilted. At the moment it's 23.5 degree tilted. So now, and this, it goes around the sun. And when the tilt is, when the northern pole is closer to the sun, in one extreme setting, it is the northern pole is closer to the sun, then we have the summer in the northern hemisphere, and also, or the summer, the longer day in the northern hemisphere, and the maximal length of the day in the northern hemisphere, and it is where the day behind the polar circle, within the polar circle starts, right? Along the polar circle, we have only one day, which is you have midnight sun. But the further to the north, this day belongs longer. They may be like not only 24 hours, it's like 48 hours, and so on and so on. In Spitsbergen, it's 4 months. And on the North Pole, it's 6 months or even more. And then when it turns, then on the other side on the sun, the southern pole is closer to the sun. It is tilted, and then the area within the polar circle, the sun doesn't set. And now, the funny thing is that we actually get a longer polar day than the polar night on the northern hemisphere. How is it possible? It should be somehow symmetric, but it is not. And then we get a longer polar night in the southern hemisphere. Also, it's not symmetric, right? We get a longer polar night and the polar day in the southern hemisphere. Why is it like that? And the reason is perihelion and aphelion. Because the Earth doesn't go around the sun in a circle. It goes in an elliptic movement. It's an ellipse. And when the Earth is closer to the sun, in this extreme situation, we call it perihelion. If it is farther, the furthest from the sun, it's called aphelion. And why is it important? Because due to second law of Kepler, the movement when it is in aphelion, it's the slowest, and it is when the Earth is in perihelion, it's the fastest. And as right now, let's say in our epoch, we are in the beginning of January, and in our epoch, in perihelion, we are in the beginning of January, which means that the movement is the fastest in the winter. Earth movement around the sun is the fastest in the winter, and it is the slowest in the summer, which means the time that the Earth needs to travel half of the ellipse of the elliptic movement during summer or during that time of the year is longer than the time close to the perihelion. And that's why we get the differences in the polar night and polar day. And the funny thing, this moves also, the perihelion and the aphelion moves in calendar. But this is another topic. I will talk about that any time longer. So you can see how we can learn about the world, about how the sun, the earth, and the seasons behave, how they really behave, by looking at the system in these extreme fringe conditions, right? Behind or within the polar circle. Then you can really learn about that system. And you will find out that actually the normal condition is you have a polar night, you have a polar day, and in between the sun, where the sun doesn't rise and doesn't set, and in between these two periods of the year, you have days or periods where the sun rises and sets. And most of the people in the world, 99.9% of people in the world, experience only these periods. They experience only let's say, a special case, but not the normal case. The normal case for the world is this one, right? And there is also two other, or let's say another special case, which is the pole, where you have only polar night and polar day, and you don't have these periods of time where the sun rises and sets every 24 hours in that cycle, more or less. But you have, during a year, only once you have a sunrise and only once a sunset. So I would like the flat earthers to explain to me how it works in their theory, these two phenomena, that you have a polar day, meaning the sun is always above the horizon. How does it work with flat Earth? And how do you explain, if you could explain that, how do you explain that you have actually places where the polar night is much longer than the polar day, and vice versa, and generally they have different durations depending on where you are. Let's discuss about that. Leave a comment below about this phenomena. That's it for today from the Nordcap. I hope you like this video. If yes, give me a thumb up. If not, of course, thumb down, subscribe. If you haven't, share this video with your loved ones, with your friends. One day they will thank you for that. I talk here a lot about how to do great, impossible things in your life and business, how the best entrepreneurs in our world think and act, how the self-made billionaires think and act. I talk here a lot about economy, about money, about cryptocurrencies, about how to get to the truth, how to discover the world. So if you like this video, you will certainly like my other videos. I invite you to watch them. That's it for today from the Nordcap. Wish you a fantastic day. Let's do something extraordinary today.